Archie in that interview said, yeah, I don't really get nervous. Excuse me? Archie, are we talking about the same the milkman saying you don't get nervous? Look, Archie's always nervous in any competition he plays. It's all about whether or not Nipsey will be able to cool his nerves and have the kind of performance he had yesterday, because he had a huge clutch to actually see them qualify to play in round 3 today. So all eyes will be on his duo partner. And of course, we want to see Archie doing well individually.
We always want to make sure. A lot of our fan favorites at the top of the leaderboard, there's Peshka looking like he's already with some early game struggles, lost his teammate, and now he's by himself, but he does have a decent loadout, and this is one of the teams that we're talking about. They're outside of that top 50 bubble as of now, but they need the bare minimum placement on the day in order to make it to that grand final. So this is why you could see him trying to hide, stay alive. It doesn't matter how long it takes in this position. It's all about the points that he's trying to gather here and get themselves off to an early game start here in game 1.
Yeah, I think the big thing is they got to try and sort that. Oh, okay. Let's calm down here, because our boys Hydra and Trexa are in another fight, and they're up against Bala and Alex Cod.
Not too much. Nobody really backing down just yet. And I like the way they position themselves, ultimate low ground in the same box. There's that strength in numbers, but on the other side, they're just trying to get 2 different angles. You can see them using the flapjacks, trying to break into the box, cause at least a little bit of damage. Try to whittle them down to make it easier as soon as they get into the box for a shotgun exchange. But I like how Hydro and Trex, they're just taking their time. They're experts. They've done this more than once. So for them, it's all about playing that blueprint in which you set out up until this point. Pressure still going to continue from them. They don't want to give it up. They're on the outskirts of the map. They did pull zone number 1, but you see in the minimap, slowly but surely, you see Repaired rotating on over. Wants to see what all this noise is about. Is it something that he can third party? Can he get some surge damage? Questions that we're asking ourselves. This fight is a little bit prolonged, but that just goes to show how much importance is on this.
Yeah, and you're seeing why the flapjack rifle in fights like this is so good, just because of the way you can just continuously pressure them. So much ammo in the chamber that you can work with. Eventually, though, they will choose to disengage and move on from that fight. Something I didn't actually expect to see much of today, to be fair. I'm very much expecting people to commit to fights to the very end.
That's what we've seen. We've even seen it a little bit, even with Surge Week in Major 2, for the players that already got their spot. It's all about conditioning the rest of the lobby. It's not all about the POI. It's not all about where you land, but your loot path, how you're getting the Surge. Everything needs to be set in stone. It's the last chance for some of those players that already qualified to the Grand Finals to get that good set lobby practice underneath your belt.
Yeah, and speaking of teams who need to try and qualify for the Grand Finals, Anis and Strap, do you think they got what it takes?
I definitely do. I think they've been progressively getting better. We called Strap a little bit of a rookie here, playing with his teammate. And that's a big amount of confidence you put into somebody. And I think they have what it takes. They've been doing well so far throughout the 3 weeks, but Slove and Asa, same thing can be said for them. They know how to finish a lot of these fights as soon as they start. And you can see them taking different angles. The shot's going to poke through, but unable to connect. This one is going to continue on. You can see the way they're fighting together. They're making sure to hover over their opponents, cut off any exits, not really give them any room to work with, and force them to use the rift to try to get out of dodge.
Yeah, but they're going to dive right back down, of course aware of all the different players in the area that could take shots at them. And even with that being said, no matter how aware you are of it, sometimes not much you can do to stop it taken out of the sky. And As and Slove will look to try and claim that body if they can get the loot.
A couple players into the distance, watching over him like a hawk. You can see already getting that Storm Surge up very, very early on in the game. And kind of ask you a question as we check out this replay. Do you think Storm Surge is going to be better for some of these teams, or do you think because of the amount of action you predict to see that it's going to be worse for some of these teams?
Oh, that's a mixed variable. I think I think it just really depends on where you are and who you are. I don't think there's one answer for everybody, right? I think some teams will certainly find it easier. There'll be others who have their struggles, but that's the case almost every week, right? I think Malibuka and Thomas probably won't have too many struggles. They're obviously a team who has their spot established, and we're going to expect to see them in the finals. And so for these guys, their mission is almost to make sure everybody around their POI is completely afraid of them, right? Everybody that lands anywhere near racetrack goes, okay, these guys are going to be an issue for us. We're not going to go anywhere near it.
Yeah, and I can kind of agree with that because of how well they've been performing, not just this season, but multiple seasons in a row to kind of start the year off. And switching on over to a team that's trying to really build up respect on their names. Academy players for Guild, Voltiac, and Mesa. You have familiarity with them, but they're just trying to go and get their position locked in the zone using the Rift this time around. They got a little bit lucky not getting Mammoth out of the sky, but that's just the name of the game when it comes to Fortnite. As Odin and Edwin trying to finish a fight they started on. Edwin was able to get his teammate back, and you could see how it works out for them already to kind of start what would be their first fight since the reboot.
Yeah, these guys, again, on a bit of a roll here now. 4 limbs total this game already. And I think that's important, right? When you're one of those teams on the outskirt this season, it's so difficult to get into good positions in the zone, and sometimes it can be even more difficult to get your surge, right? So when you have a bunch of opportunities to fight off spawn without really being interrupted, that damage does go quite a long way.
To take back-to-back fights is going to be huge. Show them, and they're laughing. Another team that kind of switched up their drop spot as Merstash and Hideown Bush moved over to the Secluded Spire. They instantly kind of moved on out with a lot of POIs kind of opening up here in our week 3. We've seen a lot of teams just kind of take advantage, use whatever they can to kind of surprise anybody in this lobby. But zone does look like it is going to pull up towards the north just a little bit. You see towards that frenzy field in your minimap, that is where it is going to cut off. So the southeastern side of the zone for now is going to be congested with a lot of these teams.
Show them and they're laughing, not you're laughing. Gonna be here over at Creaky Compound, and you see just how many teams are sort of in this area moving through. Of course, show them and they're laughing. Very much secured, you'd say, in terms of being able to make it to grand finals on their series points. And that actually makes them one of the few teams, Jacob, that has made it to every single major grand finals in this chapter. Not an easy feat by any means. That makes them, what, 1 of 9, I believe?
It's impressive. It's impressive. It just goes to show that, you know, consistency is going to be key. But these set lobbies, week 1, week 2, week 3, and the grand finals, are just a whole different beast.
Yeah, and they've had a bit of an up, down, and up again year, right? Started the year quite hot, mellowed out around Major 2, even though they still made it to finals. It wasn't the best for them, and here in Major 3 they've seemed to have been on a bit of an up again. Only thing I'd say, right, is that they are changing things up with their strategy. Landing now at North Slappy, almost making that switch with Tayson and Mustache, right, to avoid contesting them off spawn, but we'll see how it pays off for them this week. And in grand finals for Akira in this fight, a big shot now to really push the tempo of this fight, but a big shot being returned as well.
Yeah, it's just a back and forth battle. But Hydro definitely has his work cut out for him. 2v1, the numbers game that we've seen all too often here in Fortnite. Just too much for even him to overcome. But it just goes to show they've been in battle after battle after battle up until this point, trying to rotate, and then eventually it'll catch up to you. As Akira and Skyjump has solidified that and got themselves a good position now. But I can't imagine it's too much when it comes to Storm Surge, especially predicting how active this lobby will be as Rift Island appears. And who would you guess would go for it? None other than Thomas and Malibuka. We didn't see them really go for it too much in the first couple of weeks, but now a lot of our heavy hitters in terms of contesting that island is no longer there. It's basically theirs, and what I would think almost for free, unless somebody's daring enough to challenge them.
I don't think anyone wants to. But ultimately, If you do come up here, there's a good chance you'll be punished as a result of it.
Rare miss from Thomas HD. I almost think that gives them a boost of confidence. They don't necessarily know who they're fighting up against, and you'd think Thomas would hit those shots. So now that a couple misses go through, you see them just trying to move themselves onto this Rift Island, cement their position, and they got Malibuca and Thomas separated on 2 different layers, but that's not slowing them down. It's not stopping them either, as a nice shot's going to be landed by Thomas, just immediately dominating his opponent, taking down his shield. But Malibuca take the same type of shot, and that's going to force them both to kind of play a little defensive and let their teammates heal.
Thomas, this season has been an absolute menace, as always, really, to anyone that he fights, but there's almost been a different sort of fire in him at times. It just feels like he is unstoppable when you watch him sometimes taking on these different types of fights.
Just a juggernaut, some would say. He's just one that commands so much respect here in the lobby with the zone. Like you talked about, continued going north, moving towards the west, so that's going to force people into the direction of Rift Island. But it is going to be captured. All those points going over to Thomas and Malibuca.
Yeah, look, I don't want to put too much pressure on Thomas and Malibuca, but we know they are 2 of the most high-profile names to not win an FNCS in the world of Fortnite. And when you look at a lot of the competition this season, I think there's probably no better season for them than this one. Assuming that Tasting the Moustache are contested or spawn. If not, then hey, look, maybe it's a different type of conversation. But certainly, you'd hope Malibuca and Thomas can pick up that first FNCS win. Of course, another team in that conversation for FNCS winning, Seti and Cammy, on our screens here. And we got Vivid to fill us in with what they've been up to.
Yeah, for Cammy and Seti, it's just business as usual. Of course, getting their uncontested drop spot. But how do they continuously find themselves toward the top of that series point leaderboard? It's always their Storm Surge strategies. And this push towards Shattered Slabs is going to secure them a bunch of damage with that gold Mammoth pistol. But they're staying active in the early game as well, going to go make sure that they secure that combat cache. And the interesting choice here is going to be dropping the Flapjack rifle for their slurp juices. We'll have to see how this pans out throughout the late game.
Thank you, Vivid, for the breakdown on Seti and Cam. You're almost laughing there. You're talking about a great season for Thomas and Malibuca. Who's going to contest them at the top of the leaderboard? Then you got Fortnite saying, hold my slurp, and in comes Seti and Cammy. And a full breakdown by Vivid. And this is where it is going to get interesting towards the top half, because I even think that there is going to be an opportunity for somebody unknown to try to jump up that leaderboard. But there's 10 spots for the Global Championship after Major 3. And that last chance Major, the interesting thing is those 10 spots for Major 3 go to the upper side of the bracket. The last chance Major teams qualify to the lower side of the bracket. And that's why Major 3 has so much pressure around.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that a lot of people probably aren't really factoring in, especially since it's something that is very much new to the world of Fortnite, where if you make it to globals, you aren't guaranteed to be able to play in the lobby where you make the big money, right? That's not a guarantee. There's not a guarantee you get to Championship Sunday, so it's very much about making sure you make it out of that bracket stage, and the best chance you have of making it out of the bracket stage is being in that upper bracket. And so if you don't make it in this grand finals in one of those 10 spots, you're gonna be battling it out for one of the lower bracket spots that comes with last chance Major. So again, very, very, very big pressure on a lot of these teams heading into grands.
Yep, this is going to be one of them. Trapped and Anas, they still need a very, very baseline performance on the day. They need to stay consistent throughout the course of these 6 games. You can see right now, Anas just a little low on the HP. You can see they're trying to save it for this next rotation, which does look like it is going to be far for them. Almost the max distance pool on the other side of the map. As Hen lost Oogway, but he's not backing down from a challenge, is close to zone. And if he has enough heals or can find some, because he's about to run out on the med miss, he could try to stay on this side of the zone, but he's just getting targeted by 2, maybe even 3 different players right now. And his chances of survival are slowly but surely going out the window as he's looking for any bit of heals. He's going back to the shack, where typically you might find some floppers, you might find something to work, but the time running out, down goes Hen.
As he got to the cooler as well, taken out, and it's Jakey Fan and Archie that were the ones really acting as the roadblock for Hen there.
shot.